what we had is we had the Sacramento Children's Chorus, and we were so grateful to work on this nonprofit. Give you a little bit of background, and as if it needs any kind of a background, the Children's Chorus, Sacramento Children's Chorus, was actually a master's project by the person who started, the person who founded it 28 years ago. And that's kind of exciting because this shows like some longevity and some real love that's been put inside of this. Our goal was to do this digital campaign for her, but actually it grew into this bigger thing. And now that we have Cole on the screen, he's gonna pick it up from there. Cole, you ready to go?
I am. How was my timing?
Your timing was most excellent.
Perfect.
So I'm gonna go to the next screen.
Correct. So I'll try not to read this word for word, but paraphrase. The challenges that we were presented with and that were outlined in our creative brief was the fact, similar to what a lot of us are going through with the COVID pandemic, but especially with a choir group, getting together, and as it was described by the client, a hyper spreader, when you're actually singing and projecting and in an indoor environment, which would be a better place to hold a choir. So that the way it's structured in itself made it a challenge. And then on top of that, the music elective in schools has slowly been cut. As budgets get tighter, we've seen a progression of schools just not offering this type of elective. And so where at one point word of mouth is the strongest spreader, let's say the strongest instigator of new members or new interest in joining the Sacramento Children's Chorus, now this association or this discovery of your love of music has been cut out of a lot of the standard curriculum in schools. And so where that was a frequent avenue, we're seeing less and less of that as an opportunity. And then just encapsulated in all of these difficulties is funding. And so with the lack of involvement, lack of students who actually pay a tuition, and lack of being able to hold events and concerts and some of these fundraising opportunities, it has all compiled and been difficult to funding. And then there was another nuance that was told to us in that when looking to attract donors, they usually want to support something that serves underserved populations. And the nature and structure of the Sacramento Children's Chorus at present day doesn't support those communities, just because it might be difficult to get to regular practices or rehearsals, and they don't have a busing system or something that would facilitate that, and not being in schools also makes it difficult for that. So those three challenges were the main ones we tried to address with our messaging and our brand positioning. And we can move on. Objectives. So part of the creative brief and some of the additional objectives that we added after our discussion with Daphne, the client, started off, we're going to refresh the logo. So as it currently stands, there is somewhat of a perception of the group that this is your stereotypical, you see it in the movies, everyone's singing off key, no one's connected kind of choir group. And it's not that, it's a very professional environment. There's professional instructors and they take it seriously. It's less, and I'm painting this in my own words, but less of a summer camp, more of a team sport kind of thing. So they wanted to refresh the logo to promote higher engagement, but also convey that professional nature of the organization. So initial impression would be something that we need to take seriously. And then we created a messaging framework for any content developed in the future after we hand this off to be filtered through these brand lenses, and we'll get into that later. And then provide communication channel recommendations, not just for recruitment of both parents and students, but also for donors. And so our team put together different avenues, potentially funded avenues as well, and what we think would be the best approach for capturing those audiences. And then recommendations for post-COVID-19, because Current state, it's somewhat of a wash. There's not much we can do to change the fact that you can't have large gatherings of people, but we can look towards the future, weather the storm, and then how are we going to come out of this full steam ahead. And so our target audience is the Sacramento region, because it is called the Sacramento Children's Chorus. We are looking for, there are certain rehearsal and practice centers, and so it needs to be in that area. And then also the San Juan Unified School District, SJUSD, is also a target. When we spoke to the client, there are avenues of bringing students and parents in to the fold by actually building out a program within the school itself. So rather than people from all over coming to one center, you can actually build it within the school, and some of that was funding that was provided through grants and such. And then the 3 demographic makeups we're looking at. So we're looking at parents of school-age children, grades K through 12. After 12, they tend to go off to college, do their own thing, but they still stay involved in the community. Donors, so arts, culture interest, alumni, current parents, and then trying to build out more of a corporate sponsorship. So a lot of that is entailed in our messaging is what's in it for me, why would I sponsor, speaking to that more directly. And then students. So there's 2 categories of students. There's the older students who you might actually be able to speak to through social, and you might be able to market to and get them. It's that word of mouth, and it's that community. My friend's doing it. I want to do it. This looks cool. It's always interests me. How do I get involved? And then younger kids, we're not worried about so much. The younger kids, we would market to their parents, obviously. There's rules and stuff. We all know that. So those are our 3 audiences. And so for our brand messaging, that framework, we built into 3 buckets, and we picked these words. These words are internal, so professional, community, enriching. Those are our lenses. So when we pass off the new brand and the messaging guidelines and our media guidelines, as they start to execute that in their day-to-day, whether it is a client or a volunteer or an intern, we want them to be able to craft and direct messaging in these 3 areas. And so what are they and what do they entail? So professional, we already talked about perception that we wanted to shape through the initial impressions our brand and logo would convey. Professionalism is members practice or craft in the direction of music professionals. So in our discussion, we learned that there is a tuition, and the instructors are typically paid, and they have an education within music education. And so we thought that was an important note to tell to your audiences, for the fact that if we're trying to get away from the common perception or the misconception that this is just a thrown together organization or singing experience, we thought we should highlight the fact of those things in the background that might not necessarily be seen as important, but might convey a higher sense of value. So an example of how that might look in a social post, for instance, would be meet Jessica Suderman. She holds a bachelor's degree in music education, a single subject teaching credential in music from Azusa Pacific University. And so that's highlighting a potential instructor, parents, donors, et cetera, might say, okay, well, I can see the value in this from the sense that my money is actually going towards a higher degree of instruction. And then community. So one of the great parts about the Sacramento Children's Course is that it helps build these long-lasting relationships, and it also ties you into a community similar to sports. One of the things in the creative brief that we called out was it appeals to the non-athletic community. So I'm not interested in sports, but I am interested in group building, extracurriculars. And so the same kind of sense of community you would get from having a lifelong sport, where you do it then, there's scholarship opportunities, you go to college, you do it for the college, or you do it as a hobby, graduate, your life, it's something that kind of follows you. That community is what we wanted to tie together and actually promote. We thought it was super valuable, and it provided value not only to parents, but to kids and to donors. So that is a value of belonging to a lifelong community of singers, musicians, with a common interest. An example was belong to a community of young musicians where self-expression is developed, a musical community where mentorship and positive experience create lasting relationships. And then enriching. So enriching was more for donors and parents as far as the positive and valuable experience and engaging environment. So it's why would I take 6 hours out of my week, potentially more if there's travel, to bring my kid to the Sacramento Children's Course? And you have to really convey the value. And so professional community does it, but also it's developing skills. It's fun. You get to go to these events. It's fun for the community. And again, it's a lifelong skill. So that was some of our examples. Those are some bullet points, but anything that the team will do at the Sacramento Children's Course in the future should fall into one of these buckets. And if it doesn't fit or it doesn't have the right sense of tone or voice, then you need to reevaluate the messaging or the promotion that you're putting on. And then I will pass this over to Michelle to talk about.
Yes, thank you. Hi, Daphne. Nice to see you again. So we, based on our conversation, put together some thoughts on media. You know, we had talked a little bit about sometimes having a small budget to promote with. So we thought we would do a combination of some paid recommendations, some earned or PR opportunities, and then also how we can use your own channels like your Facebook page, your website, etc., to help promote and expand the followers for the Sacramento Children's Choir. So Chris, we can go to the next page. So we started out with some social media recommendations. This is a really good way to capitalize on exposure with no hard media costs attached to it. So the first recommendation is to really expand your following, you know, encouraging your members and their families to follow your pages, encouraging their friends who maybe aren't involved to also follow the pages, asking similar organizations and maybe some of the venues that you partner with so that you can all support each other and increase your social following. Another thing that we recommend is engaging more and encouraging dialogue. So it's not just a one-way communication of you putting out a message and people reading it. So, you know, things like tagging your sponsors or your members for specific posts or asking them questions or including polls, things like that that encourage more of a two-way dialogue and deeper conversations. The next, and this is a little bit more to help you be organized in how you have content, and so that you have content that's ready to go when you need a post or a newsletter or something, to have established content buckets with copy in them or images or whatever other assets are appropriate, so that you can sort of pull them off the shelf as needed and have them ready to turn around relatively quickly. And then scheduling out, you know, perhaps creating a content calendar for the year, knowing, you know, that you have a big holiday concert typically or a spring concert, and how you want to be able to support those, having that all planned out so that you can see it in advance and be prepared for those things so that they don't come up last minute and require a lot of time to implement. And then finally, this one we'll go into a little bit more detail later, is boosting your posts with a little bit of a paid budget. It can be a very low out-of-pocket cost, and it's great to deliver your messages to people who aren't your current followers, and target in a variety of ways, especially through Facebook. They have tremendous targeting capabilities, you know, whether it's local parents or mom groups, you know, philanthropists who are local, people who homeschool or current members. You know, it's really sky's the limit with the targeting on social media. Okay. This grid has a lot of information, and I know it's really hard to read. It's really a reference tool for you, but we put together, you know, based on the top 4 platforms, sort of the audiences that we recommend targeting, the type of content that you could use, what the calls to action could be. So this is really more of a tool for you to have to refer to, but we did want to include it and touch on it just briefly during this call today. And then finally, our paid media recommendations. We talked about social a little bit already, but we also recommend potentially doing some paid search. So these are people who are already aware of the organization and, they're actively seeking information on it. So it's sort of that low-hanging fruit that we would be, hoping to either become donors or new members. And we would focus specifically on a small set of very targeted keywords to keep the scale and the budget low. And then we would also encourage you to look at Google for their matching funds program for nonprofits to help, get a little bit of extra weight behind that campaign if you decided to move forward with it. Again, social, I won't go on about this too long. Like I said, it can be very small budgets. Targeting is amazing, and it's very wide reaching. Okay. And then finally, some traditional media recommendations. You had mentioned that some of the underwriters specifically like Capital Public Radio for the donor audience, and that's a great platform for that. We definitely think you should continue using that as those opportunities come up. For print, we actually recommend that you continue doing the trade deals. I think that's great exposure for you with people who are already interested in that music community. But for newspaper, we would recommend using that more in a PR capacity versus paid advertising. Your dollars will go a lot further in digital and social media. You'll get a higher reach, and the targeting capabilities are just they're much better within the digital sphere. And then finally, partnerships and PR. So we recommend, keeping those relationships with the local news outlets and reaching out to them for, whether it's community newspaper coverage or the local TV stations, getting them to come out and cover your events, or possibly, student highlights or, things like that. And then you may have these partnerships already. We didn't talk about this too much when we had our call, but if there are other choirs or bands that you partner with to do cross promotion of your events, that's a great way to get the message out to other similar organizations.
Cool. And at this point, Daphne, I want to pass it off. We had a visitor that came and helped us out with some of the creative, and I'm really excited to announce her. But before we get into this, I just want to let you know we did look at some logo refreshes. That was the initial ask. So we are going to show you a couple of those. Laura's going to take you through that journey. And we didn't quite know which one to choose to do all the elements. So of course we can do that at some time later. I just wanted to set up that this is just your refresh that you're going to be looking at. So Laura, please.
Hello. So we started, unfortunately we only had Allie for one day, so I collaborated with her and we came up with some new color palettes for you to work off of. We softened up the red, so there is a red option, knowing that you kind of wanted to stick with that color since it's what you're known for. And then we offered a kind of an opposing cooler color, which is a teal palette. And then we came up, I think, with 4 options it ended up with. And we just wanted to simplify the logo and make it good at different sizes and incorporate a musical note without having it be kind of too juvenile, to like modern it up and then make it more professional. So this is option 1, I think.
And then we put it into different scenarios.
So with each logo, we have a logo mark for you as well that you can use on the different social media, like Instagram, Facebook, to have just as a little icon that will be recognizable. this I think is Allie's, so I can't really speak to the logo mark, but I know she was going in more of a hand-drawn kind of direction. And then we have a couple of mock-ups for how it will look if you embroidered it on a shirt, or I think the next one, oh, if you wanted to implement it on social media. This is fun. I don't know what to expect on the next slide. So this is another one of Allie's mock-ups, or sorry, logo concepts. And I think she was, again, doing the hand-drawn element with some musical notes to make you a recognizable mark. And this is the third of Allie's. So I believe she was trying to make another hand-drawn element that'll be recognizable. I don't want to repeat myself over and over again. I didn't get enough information to know everything she was thinking, but she had a lot of really great hand-drawn marks for you to work with.
And then what I did is I comped up the 2 other ones.
Okay. So this is kind of what you have now. It's just a little bit different, more simple. We actually had this in 2 different weights, so we were going back and forth between if we wanted the fat children or the thin children because the font weights were different. So, and this is the other rendition that I came up with, and it's just simple treble clef with the children's chorus, so it'll be easy to read. And here's everything together, so you can compare them all.
We were thinking the illustrative ones were going more toward, it wasn't as professional as the more lined ones. But there is still some artistic element in what we do. I sing as well, so I say what we do. There is an artistic element, an expressive element that is there. So I was kind of driving toward that more like a little modern, and then a little bit of artisticness, artistry in the logo.
Mm-hmm.
But we put the current logo in the middle at the bottom so we can compare them all and how they look. And I do believe these pull out the professionalism of the group.
Yeah.
This is not your neighborhood. Well, it is your neighborhood chorus, but it is, you know, it's something to contend with. And I know we have choir here. That didn't change, but it's supposed to be chorus. We also came up with a tagline. We were kind of going through some, you know, we came up with something. We thought we would throw it in here. It was an afterthought, but we liked it, or I liked it so much that I thought I would throw it on there. When I thought of, actually it was Cole who brought up being on key. To me, being on key means being on target with what your mission is. You know, that is the whole anti-bullying thing, community, the 3 lenses that we talked about, the community, the professionalism, and the joyousness that we were calling enrichment. So that there's many voices on key, meaning on mission. I don't know, I liked it. And we thought we would put it in there because, I don't know, it could be award winning. Who knows? I'm an award winning kind of guy, so it could be one of those things. And I'm going to pass it back to Cole for the next steps.
Perfect. So just the whole structure of this weekend, we know it's a lot. There's a lot of things to consider. You have to take this back, review with your board of directors, whoever your decision makers are. Could be you. If you operate in silo, fantastic. We can do it right here and now. But what we thought is, let's give you next steps so that now you can take this. Once you have a decision on a logo or variation, we can, of course, help you build it out, and our contact information will be at the end. But we wanted you to say, okay, now that I have all this, what am I going to look to do? So first part would be updating across all your social media channels, since that's where we're recommending our communications are going to start stemming from first until there's budget. potential budget to do some paid media. Let's get a unified look and feel across all of our digital presence, since that's our main point of communication. So Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, that's updating our profile pictures, cover photos, aligning an organizational description if we want some award-winning tagline work thrown in there. But that's what we'd say, get ready first. And then once you've laid the groundwork, then we're building out the content calendar for the year. And so working with your team, whether it's you or someone else in the organization, start using those 3 buckets and building out your content. And so it starts off, it's just what you want to talk about, things to highlight, and then trying to keep it on theme so that so you're not trying to make it up as you go, and you can pass us off to other people to say, hey, if you see something that falls into these 3 themes, let me know, and that way we can highlight it. So if we can help and advise, we'll have our contact information. So building content calendar is next once everything has a unified look and feel. And then partnerships. So this was one of our suggestions for another way to strengthen that perception of professionalism, but also the sense of community, was explore a direct partnership with maybe an adult organization. So one of the things that just came from our discussion that I really loved was how I saw it with the graduation ceremony, but how this isn't just, I did it for a year and I'm out. Like, the people that this really impacts are doing this through elementary school, middle school, high school, taking it with them to, I have a dog, taking it with them to, okay, the threat is gone. So they can take this experience and these skills with them through life. And I thought one of the ways that you could really highlight that without actually having to directly say, hey, look, this isn't just a one-time feel it out like summer camp thing. This is a lifelong skill, is if you can see those adult counterparts and the fact that this is something you can do for the rest of your life too. So I thought, okay, there's mentorship opportunities, and it also just the fact that adults are doing it, I think also elevates it. Because we talked about how sometimes you can think, okay, this is a bunch of children getting together singing. It's like, no, this is a professional environment. So that was our suggestion, explore it, but then partnerships can also, it's a little late for the mail, but they can also take this, and the partnerships could also encapsulate what you're working with for PR. It's what you can do for PR or media outlets. So because we think the PR opportunities would be strong, I saw the video, kind of the Jimmy Fallon-esque heads and boxes singing on key. And that was a great PR opportunity. So build those partnerships out. Okay, and then a website redesign. So one of the things that will probably take a little bit of a budget, unless you can find someone to volunteer their time to do it. But our digital presence will look connected through our newsletter, through our social channels, but we'll still want to redesign the website. And I believe we mocked it up. Did that make it into the presentation? I know it was a little late when we decided to try and do that. No, okay, I'm getting head shakes. But we wanted to redesign the website to align across the brand. So if we can get board approval for some budget for that, then we can modernize it. There is some discussion about redundant links, cleaning up the flow, user experience, etc. So that would be one of those next steps. You don't necessarily need to do it to get started, but we would recommend it. And then future activation considerations. So there's a COVID-specific fundraising efforts, the one-on-one lessons for donors. The instructors can teach an adult via Zoom, like a private lesson. We're spitballing here, but we thought we had a really great brainstorm. We wanted you to benefit from it. Mini shows in outdoor venues, including large open areas as restrictions shift. So I know when I went to Zocalo, all that street is blocked off and it's the outdoor dining. and there was a live band, and don't know if they showed up and decided to start playing or if all of the restaurants were in on it, but it's an opportunity potentially to be able to socially distance, but get some experience in front of a live audience in a safer environment because they could be outdoors. So, and then parent, student, alumni, brand advocates. Use engaged parents and students like mini influencers. Again, this is building on our word of mouth inflow of potential new students. And then you can actually tag the organization, focus on your local hashtags, local organizations, engage with them, connect with them. And then an advocate toolkit. So if you build out content moving forward, actually start saving those in templates that a press kit or a parent can access and share information quickly. So you mentioned you built flyers for the schools. Keep those on hand in digital versions. So if someone wants to share information, we're not starting from scratch and recreating the wheel. It's a quick forward or a quick link send and then download from Google Share Drive or Dropbox or something along those lines.
So Daphne, thank you very much. It was a great opportunity to work on this. I just want to let you know that we are still available for you. We know that there's some, you might have to look at these logos, pick which one you want, but our artists were willing to work past today to come up with templates and help you out because I know you're a party of one when it comes to being the marketing person.
Yes.
So thank you.
Thank you. No, this is great. I love everything and great ideas and good reminders about things. So it's great. Thank you. And I liked working with your team yesterday. It was fun.
Awesome. Well, all three teams need a huge round of applause. So clapping, cheers, emojis, volume on, volume off, whatever. Just a really, really, really great weekend and just a lot of hard work that went into this. So I'm so proud of everybody who participated, and the three nonprofits were just, what a crazy time this is. And you guys are leading nonprofits that really contribute to the community, that help protect people, that help enrich people, encourage people to stay positive. And now more than ever is when we can help. And so this was quite a challenge to do it virtually. And we really came together over the course of the weekend, really leading up to this kind of, I guess it was last March that we started talking, but there's been close to 35 volunteers that have been a part of this. So we just can't thank all the volunteers enough. I want to give another big shout out to Drew and Katie and Alora, who really helped fine tune the presentation templates, and all of the veterans who have come back year after year. There's quite a few veteran volunteers here. So for the three nonprofit leads, this is a nationally awarded program. So the fact that we have veterans coming back year after year and donating their time is just a real attribute to the community that we live in and the creative, supportive people that we surround ourselves with. That's one of my greatest joys of being part of Ad Club and FREEThink is empowering. It's empowering being around you guys. So thank you. And we will be in touch with all the contact information, as many folks have mentioned. We've recorded this presentation for anyone who is even curious about seeing their presentation skills from a professional development standpoint. We'll get that accessible to you. Next steps for all of the assets, your team leads and myself will be rounding up. There's some word on the street about a social distancing thing for FREEThink. If you have an interest in that, we will be looking at that, maybe something in McKinley Park, a BYOB type of situation. And that's really it. I want to open the floor. I know we're past time. If there's anything anybody wants to share, I have a quick 3-question poll for the volunteers before you log off. That'd be great. But just wanted to open it up. If anybody wants to give thanks, or if there's any questions for next steps, now would be a great time. Nothing. Wow.
I want to give a quick shout out to Heather real quick, because this is not an easy thing to throw together, and she made it look like it was just done like that. This takes not just weeks, but months, but collaboration across agencies, across volunteers and media partners and logistics and technology and it takes a universe of people together. So it's not easy, and I'm going to cheer because it is really a lot of work, and I can't thank you enough, Heather, for putting this together again this year. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
No, just thanks again. I mean, this is so great. I really appreciate that you guys take the time to just offer up your brain power. I mean, it's really, really helpful. And I know this is going to be stuff that's going to be very, very helpful for us, for especially going into a really challenging year next year. So thank you very much. We really, really appreciate it.
Awesome.
I appreciated hearing everybody's as well. I thought there were so many different great ideas across the board, and how we're nowhere near where either of the other two organizations are. But when we get to those points, how we could think about doing other things in the future, it's really exciting.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, great. Thank you guys so much. I'm going to throw up a quick poll just for fun. See you all hopefully soon. Enjoy your Sunday. Have some wine or beer. Enjoy the evening. Have a great week. And thank you again for sharing this poll. We'll hope it launches correctly. All right. Here we go. Are you seeing this? Cool. All right. Thank you, Logan, for the head shake. Right, loving this. Very cool. Good.
Real quick, thanks for everyone for participating. I know for me, I was actually getting like anxious and like restless a few weeks before when Heather's like, oh yeah, we're still doing FREEThink, guys. And I'm like, oh crap, I totally forgot about it this year, because it's usually so much earlier in the year. So much has happened this year. Just really appreciate your guys' time and like energy, and everyone was in a good mood and so helpful and wanting to help out. It just makes me like really, I'm like Christy trying to like hold back some tears. Like, it's just really cool to just be able to have this opportunity. And despite all the challenges we all are facing this year with the pandemic and all, and just personally, just being able to set aside that and just take some time to contribute and give back. So just thanks again for everyone for volunteering. It means a lot. So just thank you.
Awesome. On that note, have a great rest of your Sunday. We'll see each other in community, and thank you again.
Thanks, guys. Take care.